Hello everyone. I welcome you all to my YouTube channel Trinity English Joseph, and I thank you everyone for supporting me in all the ways possible. And many people, they are just messaging me on Instagram and then WhatsApp and Facebook and in many other social media. And I thank you for your sincere suggestions and everything. And with your support, I shall still move forward, proceed forward, and do so many useful videos to you. Thank you all for your support. And now, in today's class, we will be dealing with CBSE English Language and Literature, Class 10th, Prose 2, Lesson Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. A Long Walk to Freedom is the autobiographical book which was written by Nelson Mandela, and this describes about his struggle and the inauguration ceremony and everything what happened. And now let us get into the details of the lesson. In the introduction, we just talk about the sacrifices that Nelson Mandela in his life made to remove the social inequality from the country. And this is called as apartheid. This lesson pays tribute to those black heroes and patriots who waged a relentless struggle against the racial system called the apartheid of the South Africa. And the main characters here we find are Nelson Mandela himself, Zinani, Thabo Mbeki, and then Mr. De Klerk. So these are the main characters that we find here. And friends, here, if you just talk about the theme, the extract explores the themes of true meaning of freedom, humanity, fight for independence, dichotomy between the oppressor and the oppressed, how the oppressor keeps oppressing the oppressed. And coming to the title, Nelson Mandela says that he wants a nation where he has freedom to do as he thinks. It's also about the social inequality along with courage and sacrifices to remove it. And friends, now let us look into the PowerPoint presentation to know more about this particular lesson, Nelson Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom. Friends, before we go ahead, think about the following and try to know about them. What is the national anthem of India? What kind of government is framed in India? Name the foremost freedom fighters who fought against discrimination in India. And can we define the term discrimination? What do you think apartheid is? Who fought against discrimination in South Africa? And name the foremost freedom fighter of South Africa. These are the basic questions that generally strike in our minds, and we need to know the meaning of these questions. And friends, if you just look at here, this is the name of Mandela's autobiographical book, that is A Long Walk to Freedom. This occurs in South Africa and tells the story of Nelson Mandela from his life as a young boy to his decades-long stay in prison and the inaugural ceremony too. So these are the basic things that we try to learn in this particular lesson. And friends, coming here, we just have the different things, mainly the main themes, the characters, moral or the message, and the flow of events. And friends, if you just come here, the main themes, one is human optimism and the faith in freedom. And if you just look at human optimism, resilience and courage in the face of oppression. And then coming to faith in freedom, hope for unity in a divided country, and belief in equal rights for all people. And coming to friends, we have characters like Nelson Mandela and African patriots and different other leaders also who took oath on the inaugural ceremony. And if you come to the moral or the message of it, we just see that faith can lead to change, and unity, courage and kindness are essential for building a better future. And friends, this is what we generally understand about this particular message. And then coming to the flow of events, everything we just have it here. And then here, friends, these are all the basic things that we need to understand in the lesson. And then, friends, this particular lesson discusses about apartheid in South Africa and Mandela's struggle for equal human rights for everyone in his country. Nelson Mandela's early life is focused on as he struggled for the equal treatment of black people in his country. The story does not focus on grim details, but it does make clear the struggle faced by so many people in South Africa, especially the black people. As it is abridged from his autobiography, this chapter is in the first person and details and events from Nelson Mandela's perspective. And friends, as I already told you, it is an autobiographical work. An autobiographical work generally focuses upon the life history of one's own person, and thus it is just written in the first person perspective and the point of view. And friends, to know about briefly about Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, was the first South African president to be elected in a fully representative democratic elections. And then trained as an attorney is a lawyer. He helped form the Youth League of the African National Congress, ANC, in 1944. In 1961, he abandoned peaceful protest and became head of the ANC's new military wing. And friends, sentenced to life imprisonment in 1964, Mandela came to symbolize black political aspirations and was named head of the ANC after his release on February 11, 1990. He and F.W. de Klerk shared the Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating South Africa's peaceful transition to multiracial democracy, and this happened in the year 1993. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 1993. After the ANC victory in the April 1994 elections, Mandela worked to ease the racial tensions, court foreign investment, and provide services to the victims of apartheid. This is what a brief biographical sketch about Nelson Mandela and how this particular racial system apartheid was established, how it came into the limelight. And friends, if you just look at here, 1948 South African government made new laws to keep black and white people apart. This new system to keep blacks and the whites separate is called as apartheid. And as a apartheid, we just need to understand that a white and black person could not marry. They could not share a table in a restaurant or even sit together. Black children were sent to separate schools and were mistreated very badly. So this is what we understand by apartheid. And friends, coming into the chapter, the inauguration ceremony took place in the Union Buildings Amphitheatre in Pretoria, attended by politicians and dignitaries of more than 140 countries around the world. Nelson Mandela spoke to the gathering about the sufferings of common man in South Africa and that how the policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in their country. And friends, if you just look at, he talked about the courage and struggle of comrades that every time he has seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. And it discusses apartheid in South Africa and Mandela's struggle for equal human rights for everyone in his country. Friends, this is what we basically understand about this particular lesson. And friends, here the Mandela talks about the twin obligations. In life, every man has twin obligations. Obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife, children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, and his country. And then we can simply categorize into personal obligation and public obligation. In a civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. According to one's own inclinations, according to one's own abilities, each person start performing all these duties. And friends, But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of Nelson Mandela's birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated from the people. And friends, if you just look at a man who tries to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. And in South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. This is what you can see, some of the pictures, how they were really ill treated. And these are some of the examples that we can understand how apartheid existed in South Africa. And friends, if you just look at, I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family. But in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. When he was a child, he just did not understand or realize here what kind of freedom he wanted. So here it talks about the boyhood freedom, youth freedom, and the different other things. As a boy, he used to run in the fields, he used to grind maize and different other things. And as a boy, he used to have his own freedom. But when he came to young age, so he started understanding that his freedom has been taken away from Nelson Mandela. And I was born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know. So this is what he says about. And friends, if you just look at further, free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast maize under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow-moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. So as long as he obeyed the laws and followed everything, and everything was in his favor. And it was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, which is not reality, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. So this is what the moment he understood that his freedom has been taken away, then he started understanding that he was supposed to crave for it and fight for it. And at first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. The transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased and go where I chose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. Now, Nelson Mandela wanted a lawful life and he should not be obstructed in a lawful life. So here, he wanted all the rights, whatever the other people were enjoying, and he wanted the rights like white people. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. Then when he started thinking about his freedom, then he understood that not only he, his own people also were under the bondage or slavery. And I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. And friends, that is when I joined the African National Congress, and that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. This is what he basically speaks about. And friends, it was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one, that drove a law-abiding attorney, a law-abiding lawyer, to become a criminal, that turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. So here, whatever he was, like a family man, as he had only his personal obligation, became the obligation of the country. So here, as he already said, he was ripped of all his personal relations, and then he started working for the country. And freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them. The chains on all of my people were the chains on me. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. The oppressed and the oppressor both are under the lack of the liberation or freedom. Both are without the freedom. So here he says that oppressor and the oppressed both should be liberated and have their own freedom. And friends, a man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow mindedness. This is what Nelson Mandela says about. And friends, I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. This is what Nelson Mandela feels about. And the oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. And friends, here if you just look at, he and F.W.D. Clark shared the Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating South Africa's peaceful transition to multiracial democracy. So this is what we have to understand, friends. And thank you all. Thank you so much for being with me. And whatever you have to understand the lesson, please go through the textbook in detail so that you understand each and everything. Thank you all.